Let me say a special good evening to former government minister and the deputy political leader of Hope, Ms. Karen
Yeah.
Nunez-Tesheira. Pleasant good evening, ma'am. Welcome.
Well, good evening to you, and very happy to join you. And of course, good evening to all your listeners this evening at this special time, just waiting for the budget.
Spoke, you weren't the deputy political leader, you weren't a member of Hope as well. And one of your other deputy political leaders, Mr. Louis Leasing, he said that Hope stands for honest government, opportunities for all, people-centric governance, and economic engineering. You care to expand on that first, please?
I think the last one now we agreed is on empowerment.
Economic empowerment.
And this, yeah, so I think what empowerment is the word, it's not an acronym, Hope is not an acronym, but we did, in registering the party, decide that we could probably give, following that H could stand for honesty, and you really want to encourage people to understand that performance and empowerment and opportunity, those honesty, opportunity, performance, and empowerment. And the reason why we chose those particular words is because those are the things we feel are lacking currently in our government on either side of the aisle. It's issue of corruption generally that I think many people feel, a sense of hopelessness, runaway crime, both white collar, on the streets of our country, a sense of hope, lack of empowerment. It's you really don't have much say in what happens in the country because it's as if the government will do what it wants to do, and a limited opportunity. It seems to be more the reserve of those at the upper echelons of society, which is not the role of government. It is there for the people, all the people. It's a social contract with the entire population, and it is to give them a sense of that, as I said, empowerment. And I think with the P, I believe at the end of the day, I know we were thinking prosperity, but perhaps not. But it is performance, because we know that one of the problems with this government, after wanting to say, we will, isn't 2015 we will be.
And let me ask you this: what do you say to folks who, when weighing in on the fact of these other parties, that Trinidad and Tobago, based on our political culture, really and truly there's no room, there's no space for other parties besides the two major parties? What do you say to that?
Yes, I understand that people would say that, but as you know, in Trinidad, we have a growing, what you call a floating voter, some of whom will continue to vote along racial lines regardless. And you have to, that is how it is. But there are many people who are mixed heritage or do not have that sense of, have a greater commitment to the national community or to their nation and to the next generation, that they will not allow it to blind them. And we've already had seen that in action with the NAR. May have been many years ago, but it showed that it could happen. We also saw it with the COP and UNC. It fell apart. But what it also says, what statistical data is showing, is that there's so many people who can vote for neither, who feel they can vote for neither for different reasons. So there's a huge catchment of people who are feeling that hopelessness and helplessness and cynicism, and it's growing daily.
And I understand that. And again, what do you say to folks who, as far as their perspective, and I guess this is their reality, they would gravitate perhaps to the ideology, but they say, listen, we come with our passion, we come with our patriotism, we come with our love for country, but we seem to always get sidelined with the folks who come with their paychecks, or they come with their checkbooks.
And that is a valid concern, which is why one understands when people say they're not going to vote or they're not interested or don't want to hear what anybody has to say. But at the risk of appearing not to be, since I was a cabinet member and minister at one time, you want to look at, what did I do? because the best way to judge your future behavior is your past relevant behavior. So when people say, come for your checkbook, it means they're saying that you're really not interested in people's, interested in performing or achieving the goals that the people have set. And as in government, in the half of a term that I had the opportunity and honor to serve my country, I did pass the Financial Institutions Act, which was an important piece of legislation. I did deal with the CL financial pre-COVID crisis up to 2010 when we lost office, but to that it was an important yardstick because there simply was no run on the bank, Republic, or on CLICO anywhere, and that was not the story happening globally. So I do think that was an accomplishment. We did have the Hindu Credit Union situation, which again we were not able to finally address it, but we were able to address it sufficiently that we were able to show that the issue was insolvent and we had to move on. Property tax. People may not, now everybody accepts that you have to pay property tax. At the time we demitted office or lost our elections, I actually had bills ready to send out. The Prime Minister stopped me. He said, no, we're going to have elections now. Stop the bill. The TTRA, it was passed in the lower house. So the FIU in 2009, I had it passed. I wanted someone as the head that was not from Trinidad or from the Caribbean, but we were out of office. We had the Washington people come down to help us headhunt someone who had a proven track record, who was not from the Caribbean. And we've seen what has happened with this Mr. Gary Griffith, where they've taken the FIU to task.
Yeah.
So in the short phase, and I would like to say, as an MP, NAFTA did a poll just before the elections, and they said of the 16 constituencies that they polled, the top, as far as they were concerned, the major constituencies, I don't know how they came about that. I came, 98% of the persons they polled had a whopping, according to them, 98% approval rating for me, even beating out Jack Warner, who was polled at 97%. Why I lost? I can tell you, politics is not an easy thing.
It's not an easy thing. I agree with you. Now, last Friday,
people inside there who did not want to see Patrick Manning back there,
and
even within the own party.
yeah. No, last Friday you spoke at a virtual session held by the University of the West Indies, a Trade Economic Development Unit. And one of the things you said was, get rid of all these franchises. What are they doing in this country? How much coffee are we going to drink? And you said that, that's what you said, how much coffee are we going to drink? But again, as Trinbagonians, I should say more Trinidadians than Tobagonians, we have an appetite for the global North American, European brands. Many of us who would travel, we would be, of course, exposed to this. But you are saying, these franchises, is it a drain as far as the Forex and what else as far as you can add to that?
Right. So let me just say it's not an attack per se on the franchises. I want to put it within a context. The Central Bank just released that we lost $400 million worth of U.S. foreign exchange in a matter of a few months. So we're down from where they were able to keep it at 9.8, when just up to a few years ago it was 14 billion in foreign exchange reserves, is now down to 9.4, losing 400 million in a matter of a few months. And we've seen Republic Bank cut their credit card amount by 50%. And the reason being, people can't get foreign exchange, at least the man in the street can't, so obviously turn to the courier services and Amazon, and the government has to honor those payments as they would be in trouble internationally. So those are good indicators that we are not America, we are not Canada, and we are not Europe. We are a young, small nation trying to make our way in the world. And just as how Singapore did it, and Dubai did it, and every country that has had to face challenges has had to do it, we have to face our challenges.
But who faces...
And one of our challenges, among the challenges are foreign exchange earning. And
Okay.
foreign exchange earning is looking at other ways of earning foreign exchange, but reducing our foreign exchange bill. And the central bank governor a year ago said that our bill on food import bill is over $5 billion. Now, when you introduce so many, I'm not saying you can't have any franchises, but there are so many all over. When you have so many franchises, those franchises are, how much are they? They're not producing anything. Foreign exchange is you are producing still foreign exchange. These are involved in activities that are retail activities in which they have to pay to have a franchise in US dollars. They have to pay to maintain the franchise in US dollars. They have to import everything in their stores that has to copy the franchise in US dollars. And then when you look at the persons that are employed, they do not have a work environment or business structure that allows you to climb the corporate ladder and stay right at the bottom. So you just saw that the chicken place, what's the name of it, that everybody eats, the foreign one, non-communicable diseases, that's adding to your health bill. And we have to understand we are a young nation trying to build ourselves. We are not America, we are not Canada, and therefore it requires us to make not necessary sacrifices to face the challenges that will allow us to build up our foreign exchange earnings, to be able to be another Singapore. And what we're doing by having so many franchises in the country, when a person can go, I've seen people go in the bank to get 200 US and don't get it. How could that be right? How could that be right?
But let me ask you this, Mr. Tesheira. When you talk about the fact that the non-communicable diseases and the fact that this whole domino effect that these franchises would have in
one
our
of the
effects on our local economy, that doesn't seem to reach home with the average citizen. I mean, the average citizen, I ain't taking on Karen, I need my foreign chicken, I need my foreign supplies. You know, she could say whatever she wants.
That is the responsibility of the Minister of Trade and Industry and your Minister of Finance.
Well, that's the thing.
Prime Minister.
That's the point.
And if your Minister of Trade, who might get the instructions that they are allowed to have these people, nobody can get foreign exchange. Look at the situation with foreign exchange. Do you know there are a lot of countries, Lebanon is one, that is facing that, and some other Central American countries. Nobody wants TT monopoly money, you know. They want US dollars. Dollars is still king. I know there's a thing to de-dollarize with the BRICS countries, etc. But still, the US currency is still king. And when we already went through this in this country, when we had an IMF standby arrangement, when you looked at foreign exchange, we had less than $100 million in foreign exchange. And when you have no money to buy medicine, and the only way you can survive is to have the IMF tell you what to do and borrow money at very high rates because nobody has confidence in your economy, why would you allow your country to reach to that point? Why would you not, instead, as a responsible government who has a social contract with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, understand that their responsibility is not only to the golden child, but to every citizen to make sure that every citizen has an opportunity to share and also to become an entrepreneur in their own right.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, that's not the reality. We have a society where people believe that you work hard enough to remain hired and just good enough not to be fired. And you're not there to solve problems. You're simply there to maintain a situation. If there's no problems, then there are no job vacancies. That is embedded in the psyche of us as Trinbagonians. Now, what you're talking...
I have to disagree with you on that. I will have to say
Tell
to
me.
you,
Tell me.
I will have to say to you, everything turns on the quality of your leadership. If you ever want to suffer a movement whether for bad or good, and I'm not taking sides, some of them obviously I would take a side, like Nelson Mandela, who gave up his whole life for his country. When they released him from prison, he became prime president of it because the people believed in him. When you have a Martin Luther King who walked across that bridge and led that walk across that bridge.
In Selma, yeah.
Right. That's leadership. And whether you like Castro or not, and I'm not giving an opinion whether I like him or not, when they had the Bay of Pigs invasion, it was a colossal international embarrassment to the United States, because instead of the people turning against Castro, they supported him because they felt they had a leader who cared about them, who wanted the best for them, and who had their interests at heart. And when you have that, and I can give you an example, even one that anybody could disagree on. I remember when I was not involved in politics at any level, I was a young person, very young person. I always use the example of Wendell Motley. When we had absolutely no foreign exchange, so I was in a dire situation. Wendell Motley was able to come out every week, speak to the people, tell them the truth, tell them the facts, but then show them that there was light at the end of the tunnel, and that if they followed that light, things would turn. And because people believed him and trusted him, and they had confidence in him, the unions held their hands, and the people held their hands, and they worked together as a whole nation for the better of the country. But when you have a leadership that divides it into the haves and the have-nots, and those who have are the favored ones, and those who have not seem to be the forgotten ones, you are not being a leader with a social contract with all the people. You are a leader who favors one group at the expense of the rest. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which forms the 2020 vision, which forms the 2030 vision, they have 70 pillars, but among those 70 pillars is the eradication of closing the income inequality gap. And there is no question that income, if they were to measure the revenue of Trinidad, or what you call it, gross domestic product, all the valuables and services, and they do it by head. But if you were to say what percentage of that goes to what percentage in this country, which they do not want to measure, it's called a Gini coefficient, which they used to measure till 1990, which the IMF has asked them over and over to start that statistical institute, because you cannot manage what you do not measure. People will see in a very graphic way that the revenue of this country, which belongs to every Trinidadian, is being only a few percent enjoy, and that cannot be. I am not saying they shouldn't have, Don't misunderstand me. I'm saying they should have, but we must make sure that our policies and the development of the country is for the good of every citizen as best you can. And the government has failed.
It sounds good. I agree. It really does sound good. Now, one of the other things you added, that the country's ease of doing business also needs to improve, saying that it should be easier for citizens to start businesses and become micro entrepreneurs. Now that's good. I agree with you. I mean, first of all, just the other day I was doing something that included the Ministry of Planning, which I think is totally obsolete and has outlived its purpose. If I had my way, I think a government should implement a Ministry of Innovation and Implementation, and especially bringing people from the diaspora back home who would have their expertise. But I am not going to be the Prime Minister. So doing your job doesn't constitute doing a favor for a citizen. There are things that citizens would need. I don't believe that government needs to be in business. People should be in business. Government should have some governing policies to assist and for people to have access to what they need. Over 5,000 SMEs could not open their doors after the pandemic was over. They weren't given an economic lifeline. When you talk about the ease of doing business, give an example.
Well, first of all, I would say that I don't want to get into names and because there were some difficulties with the data that they were collected. It was not from Trinidad, it was from another country. But what I do remember when I'm going to say when I have to say Hassan Barrett was the Minister of Trade, he was able to have Trinidad and Tobago very high up on ease of doing business, and soon thereafter we almost collapsed. And some people may say that the corruption in the country is so endemic, and some well-respected commentators and influencers, whose names I will not call, have said that maybe it's deliberate, because everything you've got to pass an envelope. It's an envelope society, and it has become an envelope society because this is what happens when you open the gates and you don't close them. After a while, what starts off and you try to ignore it trickles down to every level of the society, to where everybody believes that everything they do. So in other words, it is in their interest to make these steps in doing something. Or actually, Dave Hassan Barrett said that he had a meeting with his staff, and he asked them to get from A point to Z point, to get to where everyone go, what does it involve? And each person said, and he realized that everybody was operating in a silo. So there, you can solve it, but sometimes you don't want to solve it, because I'm not saying that about any government or anything at all. But what I'm saying is one of the things about having so many steps involved, so much, not protocols, the bureaucracy, is it facilitates corruption. Because I want to build my house, I want to open a business, I have to, it says that person who is a doctor assigned to that particular entity has to sign off. And you can never get to see him. But someday, miraculously, I'm not saying that is so, because in fact, Jamaica was able to overcome that very same problem. And they were able to with the help of the IMF, not the IMF, stand by. They call it a success story, although they've had some failings since then. But what happened was that everybody, the opposition, the government of the day, the unions, the people, everybody, the chambers said enough is enough. We have to solve it. And they allowed the IMF to give them guidance. The IMF did not tell them what to do. IMF gave them guidance. And at the end of the day, one of the things they were able to achieve, to open up business within 3 days. Now, if you have a lot of bureaucracy, and I have to go through 20 steps, but you can tell me, well, I can make it easier for you, and you don't have to go through that step, I can sign off. One could interpret that as we have created a system, or leaving a system in place that facilitates that, and we can do better. So, ease of doing business, I can give you another example. You look at the issue with WASA. I've seen the minister, and I want to hope that he's successful, but we've gone through that road already. And a lot of it has to do with corruption, and I got it from a very good source. A lot of the corruption is that there are people who have 20, 30 water trucks, and so it is in the interest not to replace the pipeline, but to keep on repairing. The cost of repairing, you are bringing in private contractors to work with you. The cost of repairing that pipeline is more than replacing it, and on top of that, you now don't have water, so someone buys a fleet of trucks.
Yeah.
And who is paying for that? We are paying for it because WASA paid for it. Who is allowing that system to continue? Why is that system continuing?
And I agree with you on that. My last point to you before we close up, budget, do you believe it's going to be a citizen-friendly budget for the grassroots?
It can't be. Things are not good. The manatee thing, which they were singing the praises of, I read a report on the 20th of September where they're saying that Shell, even though they got the green light, they have not gotten an environmental certificate as yet. And they have not yet gotten Shell, the company, to give the final okay to go ahead. And the Prime Minister said that was supposed to come online in 2024.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's 2020. So if that's not going to come online until 2020, what say we about Dragon Field, and even with the gas that we have, we need 4.7 trillion gallons of gas. We now produce from 4.2 billion per day, so it's now 1.7. We cannot supply the downstream industry. NICON is suing the government for I'm not getting into whether they're right or wrong, because I'm not the Privy Council. But the point about it is we just do not have the natural gas. And the final thing I would say is this, and to the man in the street, if you had a business, and your business that you had was subject to up and down in prices over which you had absolutely no control, whatever you were selling, a bike, whatever it was, and that price was this year high, next year low, this year high, next year low, and your children are telling you, but daddy, why are you only staying with the bike? We can't continue just depending on the bike. We need to go into other areas. Your writing is on the wall. Yet you refuse to do what Holland did, what Mauritius did, what Dubai did, what Ireland did. We refuse to do it. And that is why today our foreign exchange reserves is in the condition it is. We have a private sector that is risk averse, and we are allowing in franchises into this country that are not producing anything, or retail activities that make very little contribution towards the person's earning income, and you're dealing with inflation. Yeah. To answer your question, the NIS is going to raise it to 65, and you might include self-employed, which I think is a perfectly legitimate thing. With the fuel, because we do not have natural gas and we do not produce enough oil for any refinery, if we even still had it, I don't know how they're going to deal with that cap on oil, since oil is trading at over $92 still.
Wow.
With regards to all the other we will be doing, don't hold your breath. They're going to give you a nice story about Manatee, but I just told you the condition. They give you a nice story about Dragon Field. I'm getting concerned about that. I wish the minister the best, but I'm not going to hold my breath. And when you see that Shell was bringing these solar panels so that they could take the natural gas and divert it to LNG or to the Point Lisa, since 2018 they couldn't get a license. So all those years, and you have to give the natural gas to the domestic market, to the homes, before you give it to the commercial. So what do I say about this government? If you can come with a budget last year, 2023, when oil and gas were trading at fantastic rates then, and you still could give me a revenue of 52 billion, like if back in the day, it means the reason for that is it's not the price, is we don't have the product.
Yeah.
And we have done nothing to prepare for what was inevitable and what was right in our feet. So, tomorrow, people will tell you that pigs could fly, don't believe it.
That is raw reality, and I think people would want to hear that rather than false hope. At least I think so. That raw reality.
We want the raw reality with a plan, but they're not able to make the plan because they had 8 years to do it, and we will be Toko Ferru. We will be the property tax. We will be TTRE. We will be Gambling Commission. We will be the National Statistical Institute. We will be all those game changers. They tell us that since 2015. Please tell me if it has happened.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sheira. We will be speaking hopefully after the budget.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.